Hey, how you doing, everybody? Dave Fennoy here. Another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything, and is this? No, we're halfway through February now. Where is this year going? Um, just a reminder: connection open. When Source Connect isn't working for you, connection open can come through. I want to say hello to a few people that are popping on there. How you doing, Sarah Cart? What's going on, Jim? Alex Wood, glad to know. Well, I hope you're feeling better. But let me jump right in now because I have a very special guest. I'd like to introduce you to, if you don't know already, Beau Berdahl Oliver. And, we got you got a other side. There you go. Beau is one of the agents at one of the best agencies in the country, Cesd Los Angeles. I'm very happy to be represented by them. And Beau, welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are more than welcome. And I was looking you up today, and you used to be an actor and voice actor.
It's funny when people Google my name because I'm an agent, other very attractive actresses' pictures will sometimes come up, and I'm like, ooh, I wish that was a picture of me.
Oh, you're very attractive. Come on.
Oh, stop. I'm just kidding. But yes. What was the question? I'm sorry. I was talking.
Oh, well, see,
about...
your attention span gone that fast. You're looking at your phone. Oh, yeah, I got to get this thing booked. No, let's see, you're from New York, grew up in New York, and you were an actor, voice actor, when you began your career.
Yes. So born and raised in Manhattan, New York City. My dad was a singer-dancer on Broadway. He was one of the Aggies in Little House in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom decided to get the whole fam into the biz. Me, my twin sister Blaze, my brother Sky. We all did, theater, commercials. And then, my siblings actually had a lot more success in the business than I did as an actor. My sister did a show called Ghostwriter on PBS when we were growing up. My brother did a lot of commercials, and I was the one who booked probably the least of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We all went off to college because my mom said she wouldn't have it any other way. And, after college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was like, I remember my agents always looked like they were having a lot of fun in the office. So I was with CED at the time as a kid. And I called Ken and I said, I'm moving out to LA. I'd love to be an assistant, to start at the agency. And would that be possible? And, he set me up with a meeting. And I became an on-camera assistant under David Ziff and Linda Jenkins and Adrian Berg. And, they just taught me everything they know.
Adrian Berg, wow.
Yeah, they're such an awesome group, like learning from them because they were very engaging and welcoming and open. And I was super enthusiastic. I just wanted to learn everything I could. I was over being an actor because I did it my whole life and I kind of just wanted a desk job. But, I didn't want a boring desk job. And there's no job more exciting that's a desk job than being an agent because, you're working with celebrities and talent and it's really awesome to bring jobs to people. There's so much enthusiasm and
we're always happy when we get that email or that call.
Yeah, people are always so appreciative and excited. You're booking people on Super Bowl spots and major projects that sometimes really change their life. We've had many people on campaigns that can buy houses, campaigns that have lasted decades, and it's a cool process to be part of. And about 15 years or so I just transitioned from on-camera commercials into voiceover. It's the same thing, it's just voiceover,
yeah,
as opposed to on camera.
And like now we all work in our pajamas because we don't have to go anywhere. So now,
yeah.
So you were what, 21 when you started agenting?
Yep.
Being an assistant agent?
Straight out of college.
And this has become your career. And so you're one of the best agents. One of the things I like about you is you don't pull any punches. You just tell it like it is. But you also have the sense that even though I'm being upfront and it's that whole New York thing, there's no rancor or putting anybody down. It's like, it's this and this. Well, can you do this? Can you do that? Oh, no, you can't. Oh, and I feel like you're fighting for us on the other side with clients the same way. And that's a good thing, because as
Thank
voice
you.
actors, the last thing we want to do is be our own agents and have to, we're doing something that we would probably do for free if money weren't a thing. But money's a thing, so
Right.
somebody has to help us get paid. And I was a musician for a long time, and I have seen that, well, we don't have a lot of money, but think of the exposure you're going to get. Somebody will hear you, and thanks to agents, we don't have to fall for that okey doke.
It still happens, it's happening more and more these days, because, a lot of free things that people do turn into big, lucrative paying gigs. And you just have to be able to weigh, is it a good opportunity that I'm doing as a favor for free that could pan out to something? Or am I really just getting taken advantage of? So, I have talent who are regular voices on things. And every once in a while, the producer or the buyer will ask for like a freebie. And we just kind of weigh the scenario. Like, all right, how much are they bringing to you? Like, do they get a freebie? Have they earned one? And we just weigh those scenarios. But yeah, it's my job to, make sure everyone's happy. And that includes the buyers and producers I work with, as well as the talent. But at the end of the day, like, I work for the talent, and that's who's hired me, not the buyers. So it's awesome when everyone is happy with, what they're paying and what they're getting, and how much work is being required, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's my job to stand up for the talent and get them what they feel they've earned, in accordance with SAG rules, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Looking at the landscape of voiceover today and how people get jobs, that they pay to play sites. I wish they would just disappear, but they're not. And they really have driven down the price that we can garner for our work.
yeah.
But I'm always telling them, hey, look, your goal in this business, okay, if you're using those things and you're getting some work, okay, fine. But your goal should always be to get in the union and get an agent, because they don't care about you. We are the product they are selling, the pay-to-play sites, and your agent is working for you, and they're not going to make money until you make money. And so you have an interest in getting as much as you can for us, or at least the minimum that we can be paid.
Yeah, the pay-to-play sites are interesting. Like, I think they serve a purpose. Not every buyer cares if you're super talented. They don't want someone who's very versatile. They just want something. They need it. They don't care who does it. It's just they need it.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to place a high value on that, and they're going to offer up $200. And there's thousands of people out there who, are doing this as a side hustle just because they want to see what it's all about. And they'll happily do it for $200. So when you have thousands of people who will do it for $200, and the buyer doesn't really care if you're talented, they just kind of need something, it's hard to get value out of that. And so, I think, like I said, that those sites serve their purpose for the buyers that don't really need talented people. But it is really hard to have an ongoing career based on those sites, because you're going to be someone auditioning 50 things a day that pay 100 or 50 or nothing. And, you're constantly invoicing and following up because these buyers don't do a lot of things. It's a lot of work, a lot of work for not a lot of money. And I find that all of the jobs that are worth having, that pay a significant amount where you could actually make a living, are the ones that go through agents, because they value talent and, want the best, and the people who know what they're doing, and they're not really just trying to get something. They want the best.
Yeah. So now the kind of questions that I know people are going to want to ask is, how come when I sent my demo in, I didn't hear back right away? Nobody even called or sent me an email to let me know they got it, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. How many demos do you guys get, say, in a week?
I'm not 100% sure because they don't all come to me. I get so many emails. If I was also getting all the demo submissions, I wouldn't see the jobs coming through or the opportunities coming through. So those usually get filtered through like a general email, and our assistants and booth directors usually listen to them and then kind of filter through the ones that they think we would be interested in. And we've given them pointers on like types we're interested in, and they know based on who books, who's got to read that we might be more into. And then, when our booth directors like Scott Forbes and Patrick Dugan send along a demo, we say, no, no thanks, or, oh, I like that sound. I'll reach out to them, see if they want to read some sample copy. But hundreds, probably hundreds, I'm going to say hundreds a week. And so it's hard to kind of get through all of them. And, if you have a friend who's represented, I would say that's usually the best way to get through to an agent to make sure your demos are actually heard, because it's more likely an agent is going to listen if it's being forwarded from somebody they know
And trust.
Yeah, as opposed to just a random email sent through the website,
Okay. I've got a question here that's popping up. Laura, is CSD willing to work with out-of-state talent right now?
Yeah. I mean, especially since the pandemic, I'm a commercial agent. It kind of depends on the different areas. Like a lot of video games and animation, they still want people who are local to LA because a lot of the studios are located here. And in normal times when there's a video game or mocap session or an animated series, they like everyone in the same room to interact with the director. I mean, Kathy Lizio's brought me to sessions before, and you have all these huge names sitting in the same room, and in some cases they don't speak for an hour, but they just need to be ready to go when it's their line. And that's how they usually prefer it. But in pandemic times, people have been more flexible. Not everyone feels safe going into a studio, and it's also not safe in general. So they're not trying to squeeze a bunch of people into a tiny room and have every writer there and every director and every producer.
I think in some ways during the pandemic, doing voiceover when it's a one-off, when you're just the only person there, the only talent there, is fairly safe. The engineer's in another room. There'll be fewer people there. Usually whoever would be directing would be, across town in another city, in another country. You never know. But getting together, and with video games, we're always working by ourselves. But with cartoons and animation, you're used to, a string of chairs and microphones, and everybody's there together and spreading germs. Now that wouldn't make sense. How else has the pandemic changed for you as an agent?
Well, what I was saying a moment ago, but I hadn't gotten to the commercial part, is a lot of the ad agencies that I work with, a lot of them are in LA, but I work with ad agencies in Texas and New York and Chicago and Seattle. But the ones in LA, they only wanted people who were in LA in many cases because they wanted people to come to the studio so that they could direct them. I think just, for thrills, to be honest, I'm not sure. But they did tend to want people who are LA local. But that's out the window now because a lot of those agencies can't go, the creatives can't go into the studio. And so what do they care if they're in Dallas or in LA? Because they're not going to be in the same location anyway. So people are more flexible now than they ever were before. And because of that, we can be flexible too. I mean, we've always had some talent that are out of state, but I would say the majority of the client roster I work with is here in LA. And a lot of that is because, the types of opportunities we work on. And, LA buyers wanted people in LA often, and in animation and in mocap, they want them in LA. Again, we never drew a line. I work with people out of state, but more so now we can be even more open to it because you're not limited in terms of the opportunities I can send you because no one cares where you are anymore, at least not now. It might change again, but I don't see it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Where do you think we're going to go after this? I suspect we're not going to go all the way back. I know since I've been here working since 1990, and the majority of the work I used to do when I first got here was TV promos. So I'd be at CBS or ABC, WB, places like that, and you went in and did it. And then ISDN came in and home studios came in, and little by little, especially if you were doing TV promos, you were doing most of your work from home. And I'm seeing that getting bigger. I had Bob Bergen on a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me that, he didn't have a studio when the pandemic hit, and he had to take a couple of weeks and put it all together. And I'm wondering, do you think we're going to go back fully to, hey, let's get everybody in the studios?
No, I don't. I mean, before this all started, I would say maybe I had 10 people who had like a full-on pro home setup. And most of those people were people that did promos from home because those guys work from home all the time. And also ISDN, even just a year ago, was the norm for working from home. But obviously, it's almost impossible to get an ISDN line. I guess you have to call the phone company, and they have to set up a special line, and it's almost impossible.
They're phasing it out, and they're not training any new technicians to handle it. So when the last guy or gal is gone, it's over.
Right. And I think it's supposedly a better system, but it's such a pain in the butt, and no one can get in, and it's expensive. Yeah. So it seems like everyone has kind of just defaulted to Source Connect, and anyone can get Source Connect, and it's not $5,000 to get it set up. You just pay $600 and you get it. And so a lot of these studios and ad agencies have just defaulted to using that, even though it's not quite as good as ISDN, just because everyone can get it. But the problem is everyone thinks, oh, I've got Source Connect that can do a job from home. And I think in some cases they're sitting in a room like this, or or they've got a $50 mic.
If their studio isn't right, if they don't have the right equipment, you're not going to get the right sound. There's some things that you just have to go ahead and spend the right amount of money on. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands, but you'll have to spend $1,000.
About $1,000. That sounds right.
Got a question here. Sarah Tyndall, what if a top agent says you would be very competitive, but they already have your own sound? Just keep trying, add another genre. I hear that from people all the time that, they sent me a note back. They said they liked my tape, but they had somebody just like me. Now, is that a real thing, or are they, or is it a way to be nice and say no?
I think it's probably the latter. They're probably just being polite. I've used that line before. Sometimes
True confessions of an LA agent.
Sometimes I really do mean it, though. Like, sometimes I'll hear a read and I'm like, that's pretty good. Like, I could rep that person. But, if you have like 15 other people who do pretty well and kind of sound like that, you don't really need a 16th person. And so in some cases it's true. But I mean, if you were that good and you were that unique and the reads were that amazing, they wouldn't say they're covered.
But what you were talking about, having a number of people that have that similar sound, similar read, you'd also be possibly diluting their work.
Right. And we say that, like, sometimes, like, there's not as many opportunities out there for certain voices that we'd like there to be. So if we already feel that's the case for certain talent, why would we take on another person who that would be the case for? Yeah. But I think I was wrong. I don't necessarily think it's just being polite. It can be, but it does often happen that you might have a perfectly decent and lovely read, and there might be an agency out there that is getting started and they're trying to boost up their roster and they don't have a ton of people yet, and so they need you. But when you come to a place like Cesd, we've been around 50 years, and we're always looking for new talent. But in some cases, we're very covered because we've been around a long time, and we have clients that have been with us for many years, and they're like legacy clients, and they come first before taking on new people who are just getting into the industry.
Yeah. All right, I got another question. Marion in Toro, I specialize in VO for video games, animation, and podcasts. Podcasts, video games, and animation. Interesting mix. Do I need a commercial demo before applying to the animation and gaming division with CESD?
No, I mean, if you want to get commercial opportunities, it makes sense to have a commercial demo. But we represent a wide array of people. Some work mostly in animation and have 3 animation demos, but they don't have any commercial demos. But I think most people, if they're serious about commercials and want those types of opportunities, and for their agents to know they're serious about it, they'll make a commercial demo. But if it's not your focus, there's no reason to make
Yeah.
one.
And the rules, change is the only constant, and I think the rules have been changing for years now. It used to be before you did anything, you had a commercial demo, and then you would branch out from there. But now you need so many demos, you might go and never have that commercial demo if animation and video games are your thing, or skip it.
It's a business card.
Yeah.
In some cases, you need it to get in the door, but not everybody does. Maybe sometimes you know somebody, or you have a manager who refers you, and they send your theatrical reel, and that was so impressive that we didn't need to hear a commercial demo. There's other ways to get into an agency without having voiceover demos, but in many cases, if you don't have something else that's going to really pique our interest, you need the demo in order to do that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Mohammed, how you doing? Been working on my booth. Do you prefer people have their own reasonably high-quality setup at home, or will you give a little leeway as far as finding nearby studio setups go? I think this is a good question because so many people are putting together home studios now, and the budget, you don't have to spend the thousands you once did, but you do have to spend some money. You do have to do it right. You have to have the decent microphone and sound chain, and most importantly, room. So when you're working with clients who maybe didn't have a studio now, are you running into problems with that?
The ad buyers, a lot of them aren't asking me specific questions when they're booking our talent about like what their program they're using is, what's the setup in their home, but they notice when it doesn't sound good, and some of them have said stuff to me. Again, I think a lot of talent that we work with, when we first take them on, imagine that they're supposed to get a whisper room in their house, or they have to make a studio out of a closet. I don't think that's necessary for the majority of my jobs. You don't have to have like a $5,000 studio set up, but you need to make sure the sound is decent, and usually a small room that's carpeted or doesn't have tile walls is okay. And as long as you don't have a dog or kids barking down the hall, you're going to be okay. So long as you have a good mic. There are sound isolating mics too, that kind of block out the sound around.
Yeah,
kind of pick up what's in front.
Yeah, the 416, also known as the LA voiceover mic.
Is it?
Does
I
that.
didn't know that.
No, see, it's all you work with is the talent and getting us booked and getting us enough money. But we also talk about equipment here, and the 416, it's a shotgun mic. It's long and thin, and instead of side address this way, it's a tube that's coming this way, and you're talking into the end of it. So it doesn't tend to hear much from the side. And it was originally used for movies and television. The boom guy would hold it up, and it's just out of camera shot. And then at ABC, Ernie Anderson wanted to be in the room with the guys doing promos back in the 70s. And they didn't know what to do. No mic was working. Somebody thought of, let's try this 416. It worked. And it has been working ever since. And I've got one hanging there. It's a mic I use most of the time. And it's a very popular mic. So that's what that is.
I was going to say, we were talking earlier, me and Dave, and we were saying, or I was saying, he should have my boss, Paul Doherty, on, because he's been a voiceover agent for probably as long as I've been alive. Not that he would want me to say that, but he has so much history and knowledge of the voiceover industry and what began as this and why things are this way. And he's just a wealth of knowledge and information if people are interested.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
I would say yes. They're all buried at the Voicecaster.
There you go.
Kidding.
There you go. Let's see, got another question here. What trends are you seeing in commercial and promo? I'm hearing commercial leaning towards funny lately, bringing the humor back.
I'd say that's fairly accurate. When I first got into being a voiceover agent, I think the Mark Fensky read was very popular, which was that really like dried, sort of, aloof sort of read. I'm not a good actor, but it was something like, hey, coming back to, Chalupa's Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Everything was very relaxed. And then, things got kind of quirky and silly and announcery. Well, they've always been sort of over the top polished. But as of late, there's a big push for conversational, relaxed, sketch comedy people. I think advertisers are just tired of hearing the same thing all the time as our consumers.
I
So,
think it's society in general. We
yeah,
live in the world. We are not separated from it. So, however the population is, that's we have to reflect some of that. And we tend, I think now we're very casual. Probably more so now with the pandemic. Everybody's in their pajamas and
yeah,
sweatsuits. Uh, we're more casual, and we don't want to be sold. We
right.
want
But there's a
somebody.
skill in that, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
You need to be, in terms of commercial, because I'm a commercial agent, you need to be able to deliver a 30-second piece of copy and hit all the right points and, fool people into thinking you're not selling them on something and sounding like you're just telling your friend about something. But, obviously you don't talk within 30 seconds and you're not actually giving your friends the prices of things and the 1-800 number and all these things. So
And
it's
directions
kind
to
of
the place.
right. So it is a skill in trying to sound like you're not selling something when you're selling something. And that takes a lot of practice.
Well, I even find sometimes advertisers now are not selling. They're telling a story. They're reminding you that they've been around. The anthemic commercials that we've been here forever. When your mom and dad bought their first house, we loaned them the money. When this happened, and we're getting a lot of those that are just they don't ask for your business. They're just reminding you that they're there,
Yep.
and they appreciate you and their people and their workers, and we're only going to cheat you so badly. J. Horace Black, hello, Dave and Bo. Years ago, I was with CSD when you had an office in Chicago, and I booked my first major voiceover campaign with you all. Then, when we had the SAG strike, the Chicago office closed. Do you think CSD will ever open up another office in Chicago in the near future?
I'm going to say probably not, just because I don't think it's necessary anymore. I work with ad agencies in Chicago and I work with talent in Chicago. And so you don't have to be in the city that these opportunities come from, or you don't have to have an office there in order to work on those projects. It's the same with all industries.
Yeah.
We have a lot of voice talent who are moving outside of LA because they're like, oh, I guess I don't need to be there anymore, and if I do, I'll just come into town. So in all industries, people are moving out of the major cities because people are more flexible about where you can work from.
Yeah,
And I think
because we
that's
can. Because we can. Another question here. Jen Henry, how you doing? Hi. Hypothetically, is talent eligible for consideration by CESD New York if they are already represented in LA? So I
yep.
think what she's asking, if she's with CESD here, could she get with CESD in New York?
Yes, we work very closely with our New York office. We are not competitors, but we're two companies that are under the same umbrella that work hand in hand together. So we share opportunities with each other. In many cases, we share clients, not all the time. For the most part, we have very varying and greatly different client rosters. New York has a lot of talent that are based out of New York, and I have a lot of talent that are based out of LA. But we do have crossover people, and it certainly doesn't hurt to be with LA if you want to be represented by CESD New York. But CESD New York does also tend to be selective in terms of representing people outside of New York, just because they do get a lot of opportunities that want people based in New York. Now, I think that might have changed since the pandemic hit, but a lot of the advertisers or the ad agencies that are based in New York just want people who can come into the studio. But again, pandemic, that might have blown all that up. I'm not sure.
Well, New York, Chicago, and LA historically have had different ways of doing things. And I know in New York, my VO friends there would say they'd get an audition, and instead of going to their agents, they went to a studio where they were auditioning in front of the writer and producers of the commercial, which we didn't get here. You went to your agents or you went to one of the casting places.
Right.
And I always thought, wow, wouldn't that be great if the writer and the producer were in the room and could tell you exactly what they wanted? Because now and then I feel like the directions have been filtered through a lot of different people, and it's almost like that game where, okay, we're in a circle here with 10 people, say a sentence here, and by the time it gets back to you, it's something else. I think a certain amount of that used to go on, but we're becoming more alike now, I think. I don't think that's the way in New York anymore, especially since the pandemic.
Yes.
Got another Camille Wyatt. Hi, Dave and Beau. Wait a minute. Why is that? Yeah, get out of my way there. It was a little something. Hi, Dave and Beau. I've been invited to meet with a group of agents. What can I expect from this meeting? What are they looking for? How can I best prepare? Good question.
Whoops. I dropped my phone. Sorry.
Oh no.
Is that the question?
That was a hell of a
Dave,
that was a hell of a question. Well, you know what? Why don't I'll give a perspective and you give one. I've mentioned this before. People ask me, "What do you expect when you go in for talk to an agent?" And I'm usually say, "Well, I don't care how good your demo is. Expect to read some copy. Expect for them to give you a variety of pieces of copy. It could be commercials if that's what you're into, or animation, narration, video game, commercial, TV promo, if you're trying to go across the board, to see how you handle copy in front of you live. And I always suggest that you want to remember that this person that you're going in to meet, that you want to take you on, is actually working for you. And you need to ask as many questions that you need answered as they are going to ask questions of you that they want answered. So that's my spiel.
Well, I'm assuming that the meeting you have is a voiceover representation meeting, but it might not be.
Well, let's just assume it is.
Okay. So usually by the point that I've called somebody in for a meeting, and I'm not sure if this agency is that way, I already know if I want to work with them because, based off of, their type and the reads that I've already heard, I usually know I probably want to work with them unless we have this meeting and they've got a horrible attitude problem or unrealistic expectations. And so we'll often reserve the offer of representation until after the meeting, just in case the personality is off, But when I have a meeting with talent, the more we all get along and the more charismatic and the more personable you are, the more I'm interested in working with you, because don't we all want to work with people that are agreeable?
That we like,
and if if you're agreeable in our meeting, that means you're probably going to be agreeable in sessions. And, if you're a jerk in your meeting, you're probably going to be a jerk in sessions. And who wants to represent somebody like that? Now, we have represented some people like that, but they were really, really talented. And so you better be really, really talented if you're going to have an attitude like that. But why have an attitude like that at all?
Well, I know there's still some jerks out there, and I remember stories, and there are outtakes from talent that is no longer with us that were really hard on producers and directors in studio. But I think there's enough competition out there. There are enough people knocking on the doors now that I think the majority of people are more willing, well, I'll find somebody else. Now, if you're talking celebrity talent, maybe that's a different thing. But I don't think people can get away with the ego shenanigans that they once did.
No. I mean, there's too many talented people out there. I mean, I'd like to believe we have the most talented people, but there are people in line right behind you, and most producers just don't have the tolerance to put up with BS. We've all got enough going on. And I think if you're easy to work with and you're fun to work with, it's going to make them repeat customers. Oh, you know what? This is a pretty easy spot. We just need a guy who's 35. Let's use so and so who we used last month for that other project. He was cool. That was a fun session. Let's
Yeah.
get him back.
Yeah.
And so, that's how you make a living in this industry, repeat work. And so you want to be the most agreeable, easygoing, casual person you can be. But again, if you're not the most personable person, it's okay. But it certainly
But don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. But in any industry, I think it helps if you have charisma or decent personality. People want to work with people who are awesome.
Okay. Let's see. Throwing another one at you. DeAndre Washington, CSD is my dream agency, but I want to book commercial work on my own before I submit my demo. Any tips on doing this without going through pay-to-play sites? This question has me asking a question. Why do you want to go through the pay-to-play sites before submitting your demo? What is the reason for that, and what's your thought on that?
I mean, I think what she's saying is she wants to practice before she puts herself in front of the primo representation place. But isn't it backwards? It's like, I want to book some jobs before I think I'm good enough for representation. It is a backwards way of looking at it, but I do in some ways understand it, because a lot of people do look at the pay to plays as a place to practice, because you get so many opportunities there, even if they don't pay anything in some cases. And it's just endless place to scratch, really, for no money.
Well, I guess you can practice there, but you're also, with CESD, you get some feedback of some kind. If you're going in, the booth director is going to tell you something. And not that you guys do it a lot, but from time to time, I'll get feedback from you guys that, oh, yeah, this is really working, or they were actually looking for something a little different than that. And I think with the pay-to-play sites, there's no one helping you. There's nobody that's really on your side, because you're just a commodity that they're selling to another buyer. So my advice, DeAndre Washington, would be submit your demo. If your demo is good enough to get attention, why not? Why not?
Well, in some cases, you want to be ready for that meeting,
Yeah.
or for those potential sample reads. If you get that opportunity, you don't want to not be ready for that great opportunity if you get your foot in the door. But I mean, I think the better way to spend your time is to take classes with those casting directors who book those jobs. I mean, that's what you should be doing with your money or with your time. Take a class with the Kalmansons, or with VoiceCaster, or with John Mitchell, VO and stuff, or any other working voiceover talent. There's a lot of classes out there being taught by actors who are teaching classes because they are not booking jobs. So it's so you want to make sure that you're taking it from a reputable source who's actually working in the industry, who knows what they're talking about. And if you're not taking it with a talent, you should take it from a casting director, because they're casting projects all the time, and they know who's booking, they know what's current. And once you're done with their class, if they think you're good, they'll refer you to an agent. And there's no better referral to an agent than from a casting director that they work with.
True.
So that's better use of time.
I teach a lot, and a lot of my students are. One of the things I tell them is train, and be careful who you're training with.
Yes.
Join the voiceover communities on Facebook or wherever. Be involved with the people who are doing what you're doing. Your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. If they're not doing this, they don't understand it. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know the lonely journey that this can be. I think about how much I have just been in my house in the pandemic instead of going out to other studios. I think I've done 5 jobs outside of my house.
Yeah.
And you're going to not book many more jobs than you book. And it can begin to wear on you. And you don't want the psychological mess in your head of, God, I got to book this job because I got to make some money, because guess what? It comes through. So have some people that you can talk to about all aspects, the equipment, agents, where to get it, all of that. But importantly, too, are going through the same thing you're going through, and can offer friendship, an ear, somebody to commiserate with you when you haven't booked that thing you thought you were going to get, and somebody to cheer you on when you do. One of the best things I think about voiceover is the voiceover community. People are very, very supportive, and I've always really loved that. Let's see. Sarah Kartz. Great to have you here, Beau. I'm a unique case. I started off in acting long ago, then went to work in sound editing and sound design. I learned a lot in mixing, but my love is in voiceovers. Love always will be in sound. Does it help me to say that, or should I hide my audio experience? You know, I'll let you answer too, but why would you hide anything good that you do? That's an asset. When I first started doing radio, my first job was as a continuity director and copywriter. And I wrote a lot of copy, but I was in the radio station, and I got another perspective on being a disc jockey that people that just went straight in didn't get, that I think helped me. And sometimes I think the difference between success and not success is just some little edge that somebody else doesn't have. So you as a sound mixer, it's probably going to be easier for you to set up your studio. You're going to hear things that other people don't hear in their performances. So yeah, you tell people all the things you do. Let's see.
I agree.
Oh boy, bunch of questions here.
How do you read them that small? You must have a bigger screen. I'm looking at my phone.
Oh, you're looking. Oh, John Simmons, a student of mine, just now able to tune in. So hopefully I'm not asking something that's already been asked. But as a male, is there any specific voice they are looking for in relation to commercials?
No. There's no specific voice. I think it's a lot about authenticity right now. To take it back to, demos and what to put on a demo and all these things. You know, people used to make commercial demos and throw in everything under the sun that you could do. You know, you'd have a group read with a woman and you're yelling at your wife, and then you'd also have an announcer, and then you'd have a big voice announcer, and you'd throw in everything you could do in a minute 30 because you just want to make sure everyone knows you could do everything. But like, we definitely direct people away from that right now, because all we want to hear is just like you being you within slight variations of what you naturally sound like, because producers usually are considering talent based on an audition. The only time my producers ever listen to the demos is usually when they're trying to decide between like a second or a few people that they've already chosen that they like, and they want to know if that's kind of what's authentic to you in some cases. So they're listening and they're like, oh, well, that voice he did where he plays a 75-year-old dude, that's not what he sounds like naturally. You know what? We want the guy who's actually
like 75.
Kind of, you know?
Yeah, and that's the world we live in now, which I think is good news for a lot of people. I from time to time, I have talked to voice actors who really only have one trick, and it's their authentic self, and they don't think they're enough, and actually they are. And authenticity right now is what's in. Being able to touch people here and here with that thing you are. And guess what? Nobody else has that. You're the only you've got. So work with that.
Yeah, just try to connect with the copy. Like, never try to sound like what you think they're looking for sound-wise, because that's not what they're looking for at all. Someone trying to sound like something, you know?
Let's see. Haven't reread this one, pre-read that. Now I'm starting to have a panic attack. I have a naturally aggressive tone to my voice, and some people automatically think I have a sour attitude. You know what, Anthony?
What does he mean by aggressive? Like in terms of delivery or the sound?
He probably talks like this all the time. How you doing? What's going on?
Well, that can work, for certain things. So he probably sounds unique.
Now, when I am just being very matter of fact, sometimes it does not sound like I'm happy. And I've had to learn to put a little bit of smile on my face, and otherwise people will. Why are you angry with me? And I'm not angry with you. I'm just being matter of fact. And then I
Yeah.
think it's the little bridge on the nose thing. Oh, why are you mad at me? Oh, not mad.
It
But
depends on the copy you're reading. If it's commercial copy, usually you want to sound happy about what the product is,
yeah,
but if
but
you're
the opposite could work too. Hey, I bought this product and it sucked. Finally, I went to this place and I got the great product. Don't
right,
be stupid like I was. Buy it.
it can work.
It can
Times, yeah.
work. It can work. Let's see. Michelle Adrian. Oh, what? You're talking to somebody else. And now, you finally had something to say to us. Okay. Hi, Beau. Full disclosure, I briefly spoke with you via email at the beginning of the pandemic. However, I wasn't Source Connect ready. I'm not Source Connect ready. I'm not sure anybody ever said that, but anyway, I not only have my own studio and am a Source Connect ready, but have acquired a top-level management and booking big clients. When would be a good time to resubmit?
I mean, any time, any
Never
time.
on a Tuesday, only on Mondays and Thursday. No.
There's no set rule. I would say if you submit and we're not interested or we pass because we're covered or we just have we're covered in general. Usually a year is a safe amount of time to wait before resubmitting because probably nothing will have changed if you do it 2 months later. We have the same clients in most cases. Nothing's changed in the world. The vibe that they're selling has not changed. So I'd say a year is usually a fair amount of time to resubmit. But, if you know someone who's represented by our agency and ask them to pass along your demo, that's probably the better way to go about it. Because otherwise, like I said, we get hundreds a week usually. So the chances are it's not going to get to me unless I've expressed to my talent I'm looking for specific people or a certain type or whatever.
So it's just about time for her to resubmit because she says she submitted just as the pandemic was getting going.
Mm-hmm.
And that was last March, and we're getting close to March now. So maybe it's getting on to time. And when you say Source Connect ready, do you mean you have Source Connect now, or you're just willing to get it when the time comes? But hey, another question here. What drives you nuts about the other side, the people that are trying to hire us and your job? What are the things that drives you nuts about the people that you are putting us together with to work?
If I felt something specifically, I probably wouldn't want to put it on the internet.
You know what? Let me put it this way. Make it a whole different question. I noticed with the pandemic, for me, I get a lot more auditions that they want them now. It's 12 o'clock and we have it by 1. And if I'm getting that, I know other people are getting, and I've spoken with friends who are. How does that affect you?
It does affect me. I used to have a 9:30 to 6:30 job, and with LA traffic, that meant 8:30 to 8 job essentially. But now I work from home, and because most of us know we're all at home, like a couple steps from our computer, people just assume, oh, she'll see it. She's right by her computer, so she'll do it whenever. And so, we have producers sending us opportunities all hours. And I'm sure you've noticed, Dave, like often I'm sending opportunities now that are same day. I need it back in a few hours.
Yeah.
And I'll have some talent write me and be like, was this really a same day or were you just saying that? And I'm like, it's actually a same day. And I try not to wait till the very end of the deadline either. Like if a producer gives you 2 days and you send them your auditions on the last hour of the last day, they probably already listened to like hundreds of auditions. And you're the last, you're probably not going to get chosen. So I'm not saying I try to beat everybody to the punch by getting the auditions in the quickest, but I certainly don't like to sit on them and take my sweet, precious time to get reads back to producers. You want to be known for being quick and getting them good reads in a fairly short amount of time. But I try to be reasonable about what that is.
Let me ask you this. So An audition has come in. You've sent it out to several talent. Do you send all the auditions that come in? Yeah, all the auditions from talent. Do you send them all?
Uh, Sometimes it depends. It really depends. Sometimes I'm given a cap of how many I'm allowed to send. I would say that's not always the case, not usually, but sometimes when I'm given a cap, I will usually send it to a few more because, a handful of people won't send in or get it in time, or a handful of them will have a conflict, so they can't do it. So I don't want to send it to only 10 people and then only get 6 reads back. Then I just wasted 4 opportunities. So I'll
Yeah.
usually send it to a few more. But I typically will send the majority of the people that I've sent it to audition because, we represent the best of the best. So people aren't really like sending us crappy reads
Yeah.
usually. Like, we represent talented people. So the majority of the auditions I'm getting back are bookable. And only if they really went astray, and I don't know why they approached it that way, then maybe I won't send it. Or I'll let them know and see if they have time to get in another read. But usually I
Now,
send all.
now, typically, how many auditions for one particular commercial are you sending out? And based on that, and all the other talent agents in town and across the country, how many auditions do you think the people making the decisions are getting?
Hundreds? I mean, it depends. We're CESD, so I'd like to believe we get all the best opportunities, and I'd like to believe that our auditions get listened to first before other agencies. I'm sure that's not always the case, but it often is. And that's not because, we're alphabetically first, but it's because people know we have the quality folks. So they're going to go through our roster first and maybe some of our top competitors. And then if they don't find who they're looking for at those places, then maybe they'll go to, another agency that's smaller in another region or something of that nature. But I just digressed. I forgot what the question was. Sorry. What was I saying?
The buyer, the person who's making that decision
Oh,
on
how
what
many?
talent, how many are they listening to? And I've
Yeah.
mentioned this to people before. So what tips can you give that might make sure you get listened to,
Yeah.
besides just the quality of your read?
Well, in many cases, I know that I'm the only agent an opportunity goes to. Or, maybe they sent it to me and one other agent that they really like or get great reads from. So, A, give the best read you can. Representation is important because of what I just said. When you're at a place like CESD, your read is more likely to get listened to than Podunk Agency in, Fargo, North Dakota. That sounds awful because I'm from South Dakota, but I guess what I'm saying is if you're from a small region, not from South Dakota, my dad's from South Dakota, but my point is the read is important to give. Make sure you've always got an amazing read so that your agent always sends you the opportunity. So when they are thinking of something, they think in their mind, oh, you know what? She's going to do a good job on this because she always does a good job on this. You're more likely to get more opportunities that way. And then they're more likely to get sent through. And if you're with a great agent, in some cases, if you're perfect for it, they'll make sure that you get heard. In other words, like a lot of my opportunities are men 30 to 40, dad. In which case, I'm not going to email the producer and say, oh, you've got to listen to so-and-so. He's a perfect 30 to 40-year-old dad. I mean, they're going to think I'm crazy for going out of my way to say that. But if it's like we're looking for this real dry comedian type, the kind who still lives in his mother's basement, and it's a very specific spec, and your read was perfect, I will go out of my way and tell them, like, hey, make sure you listen to so-and-so's read. They're part of UCB. They sound like this naturally. And your audition's definitely going to get heard if your agent is willing to go out of their way to push you forward to be the cream of the crop,
Okay. Got one here. While we were talking about other cities, how about other countries? How open are you to working with talent in other countries? For the longest time, talent had to live in New York or Los Angeles. Does that bias still exist, or has the pandemic leveled the playing field? Now, we were talking about other cities before, and that's kind of opened up. How about other countries?
You have to be legal to work in the United States if you are going to be hired by buyers in the United States. Like if you don't have working papers and you're in Australia or Greenland or something, and they're going to get fined for using you, then buyers can't use you. So I'm not sure if that's different for non-union circumstances, but I'm pretty sure you can't be in another country. And
what if it's an American citizen living in another country?
Oh, well, I mean, in non-pandemic times, how do I know if you're in Australia or New York? Couldn't you just say you're in New York? But I mean, you have to take into account timelines. You might get booked for a job at 3 a.m.
Well, I have a couple of buddies that live in Europe and are American and working American jobs, and I just think they live in a different time zone than the rest of the people around them.
So they just know they have to wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes to do a job.
Yeah, yeah. Years ago, I was traveling a lot to a lot of conventions overseas, particularly in the Mideast. And at one point, I was exactly 12 hours away. I think that was when I was doing the World Series of Video Games. It was a competition. I was a celebrity host. And it was exactly 12 hours away. And that car dealer that I do stuff for every month, I had to do some of those. So I'm doing them in the middle of the night. I'm doing auditions in the middle of the night. It can be a little crazy. Next week, not to promote it already, but a buddy of mine, Mark Esdale, is going to be my guest. He's a director of video games, and he lives in London. So for him, it'll be 2 o'clock in the morning.
But that's cool. That was nice of him to wake up in the middle of the night and do the show.
And let's see. Jimmy Bancole, from your vast experience, what would you say are the opportunities for an accented Afro-Anglo slant?
Afro-Anglo. Does that mean
African with
accent?
African accent, English language.
Oh, I would say that makes you incredibly unique, and you're going to have more. I mean, at least in Los Angeles, there's a ton of people who sound like they're from Los Angeles here, but there's not a lot of people who sound like they're, from Africa. So I feel like if you have an Afro accent, you're going to have a lot of agencies that don't have a slew of people on their roster that sounds like you. So you probably have a better shot at getting representation than other people.
Yeah, and that it's natural. I mean, I do
authenticity.
I do island and African accents and work in them a fair amount, but I'm not that. I'm not that. By the way, the hardest job I ever did was, one of the hardest jobs I ever did was in Swahili, which having never spoken it, I didn't have the muscles for it. It was a tough job. We'll talk about that another time. We are just about out of time. That hour went by fast, and thank you for answering so many questions. I knew people would have a lot of questions. So somebody's getting into voiceover. They've done some training. They're pretty good. They're working on their demo. It's going to be good. What would you recommend for them?
They're just getting into it. They're going to have a good demo. What would I recommend for them? Have a friend who's represented by an agent. Pass it along to their agent with their blessing, because that's how you're going to get heard. And if you get the chance to get in the room and meet them, just make sure you're easygoing, easy to work with, likable, because by the point you're in the room, they've already heard your demo and there's something that they like about it. So if they've got you in the room, it's yours to lose at this point. So I would just say, once you have representation, that's not the end. That's the beginning.
That is the beginning.
Then that's the beginning. So good luck getting to that part. And then once you get there, then that's a whole other set of rules.
Okay. Well, Beau, thank you so much. You have been a wealth of information, and I hesitated to ask you for a long time. I said, oh God, I know how hard my agents are working. They're just doing so much, and you were so gracious to say yes, and come on. And I hope not soon, but another time before too long, I can get you on again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and just one little piece of business. Yeah, for that 9 o'clock thing on Friday, I'm good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I don't have to hound you later. Thank
There you
you.
go. There you go. Well, get back to your kids. Beau is she has two young children, and they were trying to get in, but Daddy's taking care of it right now and doing his
Yep.
daddy duty.
Yep.
I never say, Daddy's never babysitting the kids. He's being a
We're all
parent.
we're all doing triple time these days, you know.
There you go. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon, I am sure. And let me just say goodbye to everybody. And thank you for joining me next week, Mark S. Dale, video game director from London. And I will see you next time, and just go on out and book something. Bye bye.